Hey, so who wants a big deal? Hey, if you're in sales, you want more revenue, right? You want people to pay you more money and you want bigger deals. And the fastest way to do that is to learn how to make bigger deals. Now, the great news is I've got someone that's going to help us today. Lias Magnuson is with us. She's the author of Top Sales Leader Playbook. She's also the author of other stuff, all about winning 5X deals repeatedly, which is something we all need to do, because if we want to make our number, we need to make bigger deals happen. Now, Lisa used to work with Xerox. She's been in sales for over 30 years, 15 years in her own company with top line sales. And I am super duper excited that she's here to share with us today. What's up, Lisa?
Thanks, Phil. What a great intro.
Thanks. Well, I'm super glad that you're here. I mean, this is important stuff. You do a lot of the mastermind sales strategies, of 7-figure deals. You got to tell me, what the heck does that mean, Lisa?
That's just a bunch of words put together. So, I think I've spent almost my entire career around sort of these big deals. And, those look different at different points in my career. But, what it looks like now is really pulling together account teams and having that structure in place to identify big deals, to work as an account team to develop those deals. And by the way, inside sales and BDRs always have a seat at that table, always. If not, the account team's missing out. And then closing those big deals. And like you said, they're game changers for organizations, literally a game changer.
Yeah. So let's define those first, because I think it's important. So what do we mean by that big deal, right? You say 5X. What's the number that we're really looking at there?
So the reason why I use 5X is because over the years, everybody defines a big deal differently. And so the 5X is really a deal about 5 times greater value than your average deal size. And for some of my clients, that's a $250,000 deal. That's a 5X deal for them. That's a big deal. They want to pull out all the stops to get that. And then, I had a client that I worked with about a year ago, and we won a $40 million deal. But for them, it was also about 5X. So they were in the business of big deals. And that deal, especially that was actually my biggest one that I was on start to finish with a client, $40 million, game changer for that company. And that was a hard deal. They did not start off in a good position.
Wow. 40 million. That's totally a game changer for a lot. But I mean, even 400,000 would change a lot of organizations, the way that they think about things. I mean, that would be pretty awesome. So how do we even get introduced to a big deal like that? How do we start?
Yeah, I kind of like to tell a story of a deal that kind of kicked off when my company 15 years ago, and it was a $20 million deal. It was still huge at the time, but the account manager, Christy was her name. I mean, she called on one of her clients, new client, when it was in the insurance industry, and she sort of felt like this deal had the potential to be much bigger than her average deal. And so she comes running back to the office and talks to her VP and goes, hey, I had this conversation with this prospect, and I think this could be really big. And he's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's kind of pull together a team and kind of make a go, no go decision. That's when I got involved. He called me and said, can you kind of help us with that? And the short version of the story is 18 months later, we won that deal. There was so many problems that company could have said, no, we're not going after this deal. Too many issues, too long. They're going to go to RFI, then an RFP. It's going to take forever, all these resources. We have to partner with somebody to deliver the services, all these reasons. But we made the decision that there was enough there to go for it. And then we worked our butts off for 18 months. And it was they won, and Christy is still with that company, and they still have that client. As a matter of fact, that client has expanded. It's become one of their banner clients. They talk about it all the time. And that's what happens in these companies, no matter what 5X means. It's like, not only is it a game changer, but these accounts that you land become your banner accounts, your reference accounts. You can point to them. There's stories around them. They kind of create this culture of winning. And that is infectious. And so then it goes beyond Christy. It goes to Christy and Tom and Steve and Jane and everybody else, including the inside team.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that, when it takes 18 months to close, that definitely is going to change the way people look at it. It's got to change the culture, because you have to kind of organize your whole company, your whole sales team around that one big deal. It's not, it's not as simple as one guy or gal going out in the wilderness. Yay, I got this big elk, right? It's more of a, you got to break that apart. You got to do different things. And in your book, what I think is interesting is you talk about how it starts with leadership. Why do you believe that, Lisa? Why is leadership so important in sales?
Well, leadership is important in sales, regardless. I've been a sales leader. I've been a sales VP twice, but specific to big deals, it is essential, because if that sales leader doesn't come in and say, we're going to go for this, I'm going to designate this group as the account team. So that's going to look like inside sales. It's going to look like outside sales. It's going to look like the analysts or professional services, or, whoever those people are. That sales leader is going to sort of designate that team and say, this is an important project. You guys are going to come together as a team, and you're going to stay with this all the way through. And then during that process, that sales leader's got to be really involved. That team can go off the rails at any point, which is going to cause their prospect to go off the rails too. So leadership is just essential to going after those big deals.
Wow. And do you see that the best organizations that do this the best have a designated sales leader for this team, or do they have other responsibilities as well?
It could be either one. Certainly there are sales organizations that have I'm working with one client now, and they've just appointed a VP of national accounts. So in that case, you have a designated sales leader that's only going to be involved with big deals. But many times it's just the VP of sales and, his or her managers or directors, channel partners. It's interesting because so this has been my whole world. It's the world I live in. But when I went to go write this book, I interviewed 41 sales VPs, and from small organizations, medium-sized, large organizations. And I asked them, about their goals, about their priorities, about big deals, about, do they have a sales leader playbook? The answer is no. Most of them have a sales playbook for their salespeople, including inside sales, but they don't have that sales leader playbook. And they definitely don't have a sales leader playbook around creating this big deal engine. So it's not just one banner account, but an engine that can repeatedly sort of generate big accounts. And that's the book I wrote. It's the book they wanted. And so actually the book is, really dedicated to that group.
Yeah, that's really strong. I mean, I think from if an author or speaker is listening, that's a way to definitely set yourself apart, is by listening to what the people that you serve say is missing, and then creating something to fill that gap. So bravo to you for being smart and doing it that way. I think that's great.
Well, I had a lot of help.
Yeah.
One of my close colleagues is Barbara Weaver Smith of the Whale Hunters, and she was very influential along the way, as well as Alice Hyman of the famous Miller Hyman, and others that kind of said, this is the book. This is what these 41 sales VPs are telling you. This is your expertise. This is the only book that you can write at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes so much sense that you do that. So let's talk a little bit about the methodology here that we have, because I think, let's define what that really means, and then how we go about defining that inside an organization, including the inside sales folks that we talked about before.
Yeah. So it's interesting you use the word methodology, and there's 4 parts to my book. The first part is, sales leadership. The second part is methodology. The third part is execution. Fourth part is culture. And every single one of those 4 parts has plays. There's 16 plays across those 4 parts. But I have found that sales people, including inside sales, don't like the word methodology or process, or in some cases planning. So I try to avoid those words, even though it's one of the parts of my book. Because methodology is really just, what is the path? How are you gonna do it? And that's why it had to be a part of the book. And it's so important to know how you're going to do it. So let's take a scenario where, the inside sales people are working like crazy, making calls, trying to figure out, what is the latest way to do that, to get the attention, to get, to find the leads. And they uncover a situation they think could be big. And this happens, all day long, and maybe 5x big. And so they then bring that to their sales leadership. And so from there, an organization that knows how to do this and do it repeatedly and do it well, they know what to do. That's what methodology is. It's like, okay, we think we've got a big one. Now what do we do? And so the book, my playbook, actually goes through a series of advances that literally just map out what you do. But one of the points I make in the playbook is that's my methodology. It doesn't really matter what methodology you adopt, just you have to have a methodology. You have to have a way. You need to know what to do with that super big prospect. And like you said, it is messy. It's not the same as your normal sales process. There's more people, there's more time, there's more complexity. You have to go backwards a ton because there's more people. Sometimes you have to literally start from scratch, or people leave. I mean, and if the team's got to be signed up for that. So that methodology becomes kind of that backbone. It's like, okay, we thought we were at propose, but now we're back at qualify with another subgroup of stakeholders. It's like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah. Super hard though. I mean, that's so much work, but I think that playbook really helps us, and that methodology helps us stay the course, because we recognize that there are steps, regardless of whether it's your playbook or not, right? It's important to have something, because otherwise we get lost. I mean, the forest is big. We get lost among the trees, and we can forget that we're still in the forest. And that's really the key, right? I think that getting these big deals, these 5X deals, is stay in the game. Is that right? Or
no, you are 100% right. And honestly, there's tons of good methodologies out there. But you have to have one. You have to, because if you're in that forest, there are also bobcats in that forest, and there's coyotes, and there's bears, and there's traps. Oh, shoot, somebody put this trap here to trap something, but now I'm in it. So if you don't know how to get out of that and how to move forward from that, your DOA, like that $40 million deal that I love to talk about because this is my biggest, where we started with that was my client's prospect. They had some very negative perceptions about my client. And they also were already doing business with somebody that they were super happy with. And there were some geographical issues, challenges. I mean, that's where we started. We already started like we were in the trap in the forest from the beginning. We had to overcome all of that. And that was a 9-month process, actually pretty short given the high dollar amount of the deal. But not only were we able to do that all the way through those 9 months, strategy work, competitive work, big competitive blocking work, tons of pre-call planning, so much pre-call planning for every single customer conversation. And then they won, they got this deal. And within 90 days, their new customer gave them a referral to another customer that became another big deal. Wow. That's how awesome that was for them.
Wow. Well, that is one of the big benefits of getting these 5X deals, because they're so complicated. If you can actually get a team that can help you with that and that can solve that big problem, I mean, that's how you make a big deal happen, is solve big problems, right?
Yep. And that is, it's not necessarily common to within 90 days to get the referral to a whole different customer, for another, but it's super common for the big customer you landed, like the Christie $20 million deal that with, her insurance company, that you get more with that organization. So you get your big deal, and then that turns into another big deal with a, subsidiary or a sister organization, or, just another, entity within the organization. That is very common. These big deals absolutely grow over time, one way or another.
Awesome. Excellent. So let's talk about the last part of your book that I think is super duper important, and really where I would probably start in an organization, and that is the sales culture. You talk about that, and I think it's very important that we talk about sales culture, what it isn't, and what a good one looks like. So can you define what you mean, Lisa, in the book by sales culture, please?
Yeah, so sales culture, and we're talking about big deals. So, the plays that are in the sales culture section are plays about executive engagement. And by that, I don't mean your prospects executive, I mean internal executives. So if you have a culture that is a big deal culture, a 5X culture, your executives are all in. And that could be the CEO, it could be the CFO, it could be the CMO, whoever. They're all in. They are willing to join the account team strategy sessions on an as-needed basis. They're willing to get together with their counterparts. They're willing to sponsor programs that the account team says are needed. So when those things are happening, that's, you have a big deal culture. The other thing is, how does the company deal with wins and losses? Are there win celebrations for all big deals? Is that part of the culture? Well, if you have an engine, it is. These things are hard. We already talked about that. And when you get to the end and you get a contract, and it might be a $250,000 contract, $500,000, million, 20 million, 40 million, the team's got to celebrate. And it's not just the sales people on the team. It's not the inside salesperson and the account executive and the sales leader. It's all the people that came together, big or small contribution to that team, celebrating. When that happens every single time, you've got a big deal culture. So those are two of the plays. There's others, but I always know when I start working with a company if they have a big deal culture or not. And we start, if they don't, maybe they have some pieces or it's intermittent, we start working towards, having that big deal culture.
Excellent. Excellent. So getting that C-level executive on board, though, if they've never been, that seems like a tricky wicket there. So where do we start? I mean, do we start with the VP, the senior VP of sales? Do we start with the chief sales officer, the CEO? I mean, where should we start, Lisa?
Yeah. That sales leader, all these, things are intertwined, but that sales leader generally has to be that champion for the culture, and they have to, engage. Another one of the plays is cross-functional collaboration. They have to engage all the partners internally, and they have to engage the executive team, the C-suite, their own C-suite, and they're generally the champion to create that culture. And it's funny. So each of my plays, the 16 plays, have a sideline coach. And what I did was I literally searched the world for who I thought could lend the best expertise for that play. And so not only do you get the 16 plays that have examples and yellow flags and red flags and all this stuff, you get this sideline coach perspective. And one of the sideline coach perspectives, talking about engaging executives, and your audience is going to laugh here, but you can engage an internal executive, and if they're not willing to go through pre-call planning before they meet with their counterpart, they can actually ruin things for you. So, it's not only getting their time and getting their attention, but they have to defer to the account team. And those people aren't really used to deferring to anybody. So again, part of a big deal culture, things happen differently than they happen as part of just normal stuff. So that executive has to say, you know what? The account team they get it right. If they want to do a pre-call planning session with me, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Tell me when, tell me where I need to be and when and what I need to say.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that definitely is unlike many executives that I've worked with. So that's, that is kind of comical, because I've certainly seen C-level executives blow things up because they're not prepared, because they say things that are completely counter to the deal you're working or something like that. Right. And that just causes endless frustration and often will kill a deal.
Yeah, right. The inside salesperson or the salesperson, set things up a certain way. The executive comes in and they contradict them, or they promise things that can't be delivered, or any number of ways that can go awry. We've all been on those calls. They're super awkward, but really that culture part, you have an executive team that doesn't do that. They don't do that. They will defer to the account team. They'll do the pre-call planning. They'll understand what the account team is trying to accomplish, and they'll play their role in it. And their role is just, it's not the them show. They understand it's the team show, and they are a key part of the team, but they're not just, the end all be all that they are for every other part of their life.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you need to subsume some ego there, and you have to be part of the team instead of being the show. So that's great advice. So as we kind of look at actually executing this deal, give me a couple of examples of how these things might have gone sideways, and then one good example of how these go straight ahead and actually get closed.
So every single play includes yellow flags and red flags, and what you have to do to remedy the situation. And it was funny because I talked about interviewing those 41 VPs, and I'm, going along, and I don't know, was somewhere in the middle of my interviews, but one of the VPs said, well, do you have, yellow flags in the playbook? And I'm like, no. And she said, you have to. Things don't always go according to plan. Like the play might be to, engage the internal executive, but that doesn't always go according to plan. You have to have yellow and red flags and what can be done if those things start to happen. So every play has those, and people love those. That's most of the comments that I get after people have read the book or participated in a book club around the book are about the yellow and red flags, because we can all relate to those. So, couple of examples, the account team can lose interest and they can kind of disband, or they, all of a sudden it's everybody sort of, is not, acting as a team. They're not all rowing in the same direction. You have maybe, kind of some lone wolves on the team, and they're going out and making calls and kind of going in a different direction. That's another red flag. On the culture part, an executive that's not willing to literally just be part of the account team for a period of time. Obviously, as an executive's not going to be there the whole time. They don't need to be. But that attitude of respect for the account team, you can have a yellow or red flag where they're not willing to do that. And so what do you do? So there's all kinds of every play has yellow and red flags.
Wow. That's so good, because things don't go according to plan. I mean, it'd be great in a perfect world if they did. That is never the case. I've never seen anything go exactly according to plan. People leave, they get promoted, they get bored. The executive is like, no, come on, I need to take control. It's like, stop.
Yeah. Blaming, lack of communication, people saying they're going to do something in the account strategy meeting. It's like everyone agrees this is really important, then the person just doesn't do it. Like they don't follow through on their action item. That happens all the time. But that's absolutely a yellow flag, because
yeah, that's bad. That is bad. Yeah. So how last question here, Lisa, then we're going to wrap up here. And that is, as we get these yellow flags and we get these red flags and we get things that don't go according to plan, how do we change our attitude to get back on track? Because a lot of times that mindset is the most powerful thing that we have. So how do we do that?
Well, to me, there's a couple things like the core of, like I was meeting with one of my clients with their sales VP and the leadership team, and we were going through all the different kind of 16 plays, if you will. We were going through an assessment. Where were they? And they're like, hey, that's a lot, and I know I get it. And so we kind of boiled it down to a couple of things that they could do and they could do now to get it right. And so there's really two things. Commit to what I call war rooms, but are account strategy sessions. Commit to those 12 months in a row, not just 1 or 2 months, 12 months of account strategy. And if you commit to that, a lot of other stuff happens. You do form account teams, and they are cross-functional. They do include the BDR, the inside salesperson, and all the right people, and the executive can get pulled in. So commit to those. It's like almost like committing to the end result, and a lot of other stuff kind of gets settled. And the other thing is the concept of pre-call planning, which honestly can apply to any situation, like a non-5X situation, but certainly in a 5X situation, like every customer interaction, a lot of times needs to be planned for. So committing to that pre-call planning, which could look like the entire account team coming together just to plan for, a demo or a presentation or an executive call or just a really important ordinary call. If organizations and teams and individuals, including inside sales, can commit to those things, a lot of other stuff starts to go right. And the other things start to fill in. So I see that you've scrolled my website. On my website is a 2-page pre-call planning form. I've been I update it all the time. I'm in the process of updating it right now, but there's a 2019 version is on there right now. It's super good. It's a 2-page fillable PDF that gives people. It's a tool to do that pre-call planning, and I use that every week with clients, every single week. That's why I update it all the time, because I'm in the field using it. And just committing to that, and inside sales can do the short version of that. It's a thought process of that customer conversation. So, to me, those are two things that can get you on the path to doing it right and to winning those deals. There's more, but those are two easy things that you control, that you can use to get started.
Awesome. That's great. You give away that pre-call planning. That's so important. We need to prepare. So many people go in I'm just going to go. And it's like, I don't care how good of a sales professional you are. You're not very professional if you're not planning. Yes. That's for sure.
Totally true. Totally true.
Awesome. Well, folks, hopefully you got some great value today. The title of the book is The Top Sales Leader Playbook, How to Win 5X Deals Repeatedly, not just once. This is Lias Magnuson with me today, and you can get her playbook and her pre-call planning at toplinesales.com. But Lisa, if people want to connect with you on social, where's the best place for them to go if they have questions or comments?
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm most active on LinkedIn in terms of the social sites. My website has a contact me page. I've got other resources, like if you're interested in what else those 41 VPs had to say, I've got an infographic that can be downloaded with my findings from those interviews. So my website's a really good resource for a lot of things, but LinkedIn's good too.
Awesome. So folks, go check out toplinesales.com. Get yourself a copy of Lisa's book. It is fantastic. It's the Top Sales Leader Playbook, How to Win 5X Deals Repeatedly. Hopefully you got great value today. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. Have an awesome day.